thank you all for coming to our presentation, our final presentation of our SBC project, of course. You have had, of course,
I'm Catherine. Hello, everyone.
and yep, we're set with mostly. We're still refreshed because I'm like 2 changes real fast, so that's great. Okay, so yep, let's talk about our wine first.
Yeah, so there are so many reasons why we want to create this project, why we wanted the time, the money, and build the relationships to make this possible. So we wanted to create a really show the obvious reasons why we are doing this project.
We're going to go more into that. This is more forever. Our introduction, we're just highlighting the main points. What we're going to talk about during this time. Because, so our presentation, our building, our facility organization is called Ethos, which we'll explain more and more what that is. But so that'll be part of the presentation.
So we're going to cover the problems that we're going to be solving. So we're going to be talking about the problems and then presenting solutions to that.
Of course, we'll talk about our starting slide a little bit, just briefly. What are we going to do from square one to get all the way to square end?
Then we'll be showing you what our values will be, which will be the foundation for everything we do in this project.
Of course, we'll briefly talk about our starting costs, just very briefly go through the budget as well. Yeah.
I hope you enjoy this presentation.
So this is going to be our thing called Ethos organization, which we call the ethical training home for organic sustainability. The term ethos basically means that one's high standing character or reputation, which I want to really have our foundation be built on, high standing character or reputation that we as Christians walk on and that we strive for every day.
So we want to illustrate to you what our why is. So starting with our why, we have both experienced God so personally. Our relationship with Jesus is the foundation and the center of everything that we do. We've both got so many testimonies in times where the Lord has broken through for us, healed us, and give us a maybe community with other people, give a lead similar or for.
And we want others to have that as well, of course. There we saw the many needs around us, which again we'll go into. And I think one of the big takeaways from this course is that you go anywhere in the world, and there are places that need development. There are needs anywhere in the world. But where we're going to be planted in Eastern Canada, we'll also talk about more. There are many needs also. So some of the needs around us, we want to help meet those.
We then have a lot to see people's lives transformed by Jesus, by his presence, by his love. There are so many needs around the world, and it can be very overwhelming if you don't also have this connection and this relationship with Jesus. So you then know exactly how to go about it.
And of course, we love that people have such a deep heart for Christ, but we also want to give them tools to be able to use that practically. So we believe that skilled people are really what's important as well to make a big impact in the world. So when you go somewhere, it's great to have passion, excitement, but it's also great to have skills where you're able to actually practically help the people where you're going.
So we want to also bridge the gap between believers and unbelievers as well. We want to create a place which is a safe place, which is inclusive, where believers and unbelievers are able to come, eventually be trained, and we have some more long-term plans for that as well, which we'll go further into.
So of course, we want to start with our why, but going into the organization itself. So we'll be based in Canada is the plan, in Eastern Canada specifically. These are the maritime provinces in Canada. And we started today. We went fully forward. We'll be planning to start in 2026.
Yes, and our vision statement for this is training believers and not believers alike in sustainable development, both locally through relationship building and abroad through partnership with locals in community development.
This is our heart we want to carry forward. It's kind of like Shay's thesis statement. This is what's really pushing us forward on equipping all believers and believers alike to work globally and internationally. So talking about some of the problems that we're going to be solving, these are the observations of the problems.
So yes, one of the main issues that we see is a real issue with mental health in Canada. There's been such a decline in mental health recently, especially among young people, that they're actually not invested in a healthy community. like Shade said, there are some similarities here in Canada as well. Yeah, there's a real lack where they're able to gain useful skills and being able to be active in their bodies as well, and be in places actually where there are good values for the community, Christian-based values.
Yeah, and there's a lack of awareness of how to live sustainably. So, like, living with stewardship and resources, with renewable resources and solar and biogas and water and farming. So we want to, there's a lack of awareness in general as well, colicity.
And then there's a real lack of opportunity. We see many young people, this is also linked to mental health, but we see many young people frustrated that they don't have these opportunities to be able to develop their identity, skills in leadership, and often go through university, schooling, a lot of those education building areas. But there's a real lack of opportunity. So it can feel very stagnant for young people.
Of course, we say I'm still missionary workers, but I think it can sometimes be true. We can go with the Bible, we can go and passionately preach, and sometimes, miracles happen, people get saved, there's these great things that happen, but a lot more you go into, especially in the 1040 window, this hard to reach area, you go in there and you need to provide something to people. You can bring water, you can bring resources, you can bring skillful training to people to go into these communities and really help them, and really make a practical difference to these areas in need. There was that one story that Derek now talked about how a man in Indonesia, and went into his community and said, "Oh, I'm here to bring you Jesus." And they were like, "We don't need Jesus. We need and water." And so the same idea that, and then when he brought them the water, then they were all open to Christ. So this idea that they actually want to bring skilled missionaries into the world, into the workforce to be able to transform these areas.
Yes. And then this will actually be the only organization of this type in the whole of Canada, both bridging together the Bible training as well with these practical skills training, and then sending them out into their local areas and also internationally.
Of course, there's always been a bit of a contention with short-term and long-term missionaries. Sometimes long-term missionaries want nothing to do with short-term people. Sometimes that duration can be tough. There's been, we've all probably heard stories of short-term teams exposing long-term work in areas of the world. And so there's often been this gap between short-term and long-term missionaries, and we want to help bridge that as well. So talking about our problems and actually how we want to solve them. So going into mental health. So we want to train and help with prevention. So, every part of Canada has suffered with mental health in some degree, but I think prevention is really the big thing right now. Because there's so many, counseling, there's so much going on to try to mitigate it as it's already happened, but there aren't too many opportunities in Canada that actually focus on prevention. So that's...
Yeah, we want to help provide for people's mental, spiritual, and physical needs in these training seminars and classes. So we'll help with their mental health and helping educate them mentally, stimulating them mentally, and show them just a wider picture of the world, its needs, its problems, and how to address that well. Spiritual with worship, going deeper into the Bible and prayer times. Physical needs is going to be active work. So both classwork and also a lot of outdoor activities and training.
And to talk about spiritual is real best as well, because there's going to be Christians and non-Christians alike, but we'll have options for the non-Christians. So we'll offer worship times, those who want to attend also, and then they also pray times as well. So it teaches good work ethic and the value of work. I fear we were joking about this, but I think it's true. I think there is a bit of a loss of value of hard work in the younger generation. Actually kind of, putting yourself into it, working the hard labor of the land and appreciating the value of work. Something that, our grandparents and generations back really did appreciate, perhaps more or less. And we really want to restate that and show that work is very valuable.
Yes. So we also have plans for rehabilitation in the future, whether that's linking up with prisons or people who have a really struggling with mental health, and even bringing counselors and other such possibilities for the future.
And there's a lack of awareness of how to live sustainably, as we talked about. So they're going to teach you how to create solar and energy to biogas. So these are two ways that we want to work at a net zero emissions. So of course, this is the big goal of Canada in 2030 and 2050 to have net zero emissions. And we want to be a part of that to provide solar and biogas operations.
So we want to create sustainable ways of being able to develop food production, both through agriculture and farming. So you have both options there.
And we want to care about how much we're consuming, or especially in the West, we can consume a lot more than we need. So we want to take care of that and not overconsumed. Could serve everything.
So we also want to teach people how to steward the land well. We want to steward our own land well, and that will just speak volumes for them, how they can practically do that back home in their local circumstances, or whether they choose to go abroad.
Yes. And of course, there's also a lack of opportunity, as we talked about. There are a few competitors. We have something like YLAM. You have some other places that train basically just people to work sustainable farming. There's not a place that both works to train and send people abroad who work with skills with sustainable resources.
So we've seen that there's about 10 to 20% of the youth in Canada are actually at risk. We were looking at suicide rates and just the mental health statistics, and it is really heartbreaking. So we really want to help that. And we believe that within it, we will give young people opportunities, which show that their value, should teach them more about their identity, and that they have something to lend to offer to the world.
We want to teach leaders to give opportunity to others as well. We want to raise up leaders who work to multiply leadership and get opportunity with that to go further as well.
So with the problem of unskilled missionaries, one way that we want to solve that is just by having very intentional training. We really want to open up people's minds to the possibilities through relationship with Jesus, and that they're able to actually bring change to communities.
Yes. We want to show the gospel in action and in word. Many areas of the world where you can't go in and preach the gospel, you can really preach the gospel through your actions and through your love, and the way we love others. Because in the times that we can't just speak Jesus, the way that we can show God's love is so much through our actions and so much through our words. And then, of course, in the nations we can be more open, then we can share in word as well. So equipping that.
And sharing in action will then also hopefully open doors to share with. So we will have multiple courses to in types of training. So also a plan for the future is to develop further courses that actually inspire people's interests, to develop people's interests as well. So more specific courses, but this is the basis. It would be farming and agriculture sustainably alongside with the Bible teaching.
There's 2 more points on how we plan to solve it. So hang with us. That there's no one else in Canada. It's just a fact. There's nobody else. So that's that one.
And then we want to address these issues with long-term and short-term missionaries by first training short-term missionaries to be culturally respectful, appropriate, and to teach them to just really honor those who have been there long-term. There can be such an arrogance with short-term missionaries that we want to, really get trained out, shall we say.
We want to reconcile the differences to bridge these gaps between long-term and short-term, showing long-termers that short-term can have still useful skills that can contribute wildly. They should hopefully work together then and collaborate these more and more.
Yeah. So we want to work with girls to actually come under the wing of the long-termers. So just that place of honor to really build relationship and to listen to and really connect with those who are long-term and heal those gaps.
Yes. And, potentially we want to expand to other locations as well, or depending on the success, depending on God's timing when he would speak, we definitely could see ourselves expanding to other locations in the world, particularly would be like, South America, India, parts of Africa, and such.
Yes.
So, moving on, thanks for bearing with us. There's a lot of problems that exist in the world. We want to give it ample time to say this is how we're going to solve them, address them. But now we move into our plan to begin a multi-year proposition. So, 2025, yes, we will work to scout, fundraise, visit the land, and we plan to take. There's so much land available in Eastern Canada. It's actually remarkable how much there is because Canada is so big. So yeah, there is a ton of areas that we could take before we could, for fun, looked at a bunch of them. But yes, if we were to start today, then in 2025, we would scout, we fundraise, we visit the land. In 2026, we would buy and acquire the land if fundraising goes well. We'll talk about fundraising. We will connect with team receivers that hosts abroad, as well as local connections, because we want to be very involved locally. Yes, we'll be very involved abroad as well. And then over the course of 2026 to 2027, we will prepare, develop the said land, and build the worship hall, the guest housing, the housing for those who are taking the courses, the farmland itself.
That's true.
Yeah. 2027, we market and advertise the courses that we're planning to run, so that 2028 we're going to be actively operating and send the teams abroad. Finally, in 2030, if everything went really well, that probably would be about the earliest we would want to start operations abroad formally by planting our our goals align our organization, building its foundation and facilities overall.
Exactly. So then we're going to dive deeper into what our values, our foundational values for all of this would be. So the first value comes from Micah 6, verse 8. You will probably know this verse fairly well. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with God. So we really want to walk forward with just this picture of justice in our hearts. We know that God is a God of justice. We want to walk humbly with Him and teach others to do. So yes, we want to see people's lives transformed by the power of Christ. Along with our why, we've experienced this so powerfully in our own lives. We want to see this shared with other people. Yeah, we want to see people equipped with effective sustainable development, both internationally and locally, from a biblical, holistic perspective. So it all comes from the Word of God. It all comes from Jesus. We see Him as the source of truth. And so we want to share this with practical tools for people to be able to fully engage in where they're sent. We want to work in teams and really value people's relationships with one another. We've seen with the mental health slides what we talked about, a real life of relationships. So this is going to be a real base to everything else that we're doing. We want to have a large local presence as well in the nearby communities and have trusted partnerships. This isn't just an international organization where we send people and they go home and don't know what to do with what we've taught them. This is very locally planted, it's going to be sustainable, and we'll have partnerships with people all over Canada. And lastly, we want to empower people in their callings and their passions. Jesus wanted us all to live an abundant life. There are so many verses just about that and living life with God and being fulfilled and sharing His kingdom for His glory, but then also us being fulfilled.
There's one more as well.
There is one more. Sorry. And yeah, so giving people skills that are able to be addressed in a professional field, as well as personal desired aspirations and dreams as well. So we'll be equipping them, sending them out so they're able to fulfill those dreams.
So these are the values that we really want to found our organization on, a place that really championing each and every one of these, and it's not, I don't know, like a my own values. You have the 20 values, any of our base similarity. We want all these values to be really seen and heard and understood. Yes. Budget, very briefly. So I've decided to number crunching. They come to approximately, this would take about 2 million Canadian dollars, 4.5 million Swiss francs to work. It's a very rough overview, but we have about $1 million for both acquiring the land and developing the land. And then we would have another 200,000, 300,000 for all the sustainable energy setup, all the land preparation, as well as acquiring the farming tools and the equipment and such. And then you would have the rest of it for collateral, as well as for maintaining our own living while it's all being produced. So very quick overview. We don't want to spend too long on it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So then to conclude what we have put forward, we want to see young people skilled and sent out into the world.
Yeah, to be a part of what God's doing locally and abroad. God's doing so much in Canada already. We want to acknowledge that. We don't just want to send people out and be like, oh, God's over there more than He's here. So we want to really be a part of what God's doing both in Canada and abroad.
We want to be a bastion to sustainable resources that equip others to do similarly. So we really want this to be equipping, preparing, empowering young leaders and of any age really, to be able to just go out, equip others, and also empower others in whatever areas.
Yeah, and if you're not part of this, please be praying for us in this vision. Whenever the Lord will put out our hearts, could be in 3 years, could be in 5 years, could be 20. But yeah, we really are passionate about this idea in general. So please do pray for us in it. And you can, when the time would come, please, you can consider giving, supporting this coming to life, as well as visiting us in person, visiting our site, visiting. We do.
Yeah. So this is how to reach us. So these are our emails, and then also on Instagram, our handles as well. Yeah.
So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to listen. And yeah.
It's a privilege to share. Thank you.
The God of the Lord.